As the president of Rhodes College, it is a special joy to welcome you, students, families, colleagues, to the opening convocation of our 172nd year. This is a beginning like no other, and the class of 2024 will be a class like no other. You're an amazing group. You're clearly resilient and able to rise to unexpected circumstances. You're the most diverse class in the college's history. More than half of you graduated in the top 10% of your high school class. 17 of you were valedictorians or salutatorians. At least 6 of you have founded nonprofit organizations. Your class also contains a second-degree karate black belt, a top 10 equestrian athlete, a music producer, several published authors, a filmmaker, a cake decorator, a professional Irish dancer, and a member of the Society of American Magicians. You are community volunteers, scholars, athletes, researchers, activists, and artists. We can't wait to see what you accomplish together at Rhodes. I am speaking to you from our beautiful campus, and I've taken the time to put on my formal academic regalia, my cap and gown, my PhD hood, and my presidential bling, our college seal. My colleagues on the program are in their regalia too, just as if we were all processing and gathering in person. We dressed up today as a particular reminder to you that you are crossing a major life threshold. This ceremony, and the one you'll participate in tomorrow when you affirm the Rhodes Honor Code, makes you official members of the Rhodes College student body. This is a big deal, a major life transition. You may be starting college from inside your parents' house, but we see you as independent young adults ready to engage in college-level thinking and learning. You're now part of this diverse learning community, where you'll be challenged intellectually and personally. As you take up the mantle of a new set of responsibilities, we are here to offer support, guidance, and a sense of belonging. Everyone at Rhodes, from our faculty and staff to our returning students, stand ready to welcome you and help you feel part of this great college. You and your family are making sacrifices so you can earn a Rhodes College degree. Even here, you're not alone. Generation of alumni and college friends are investing in you by paying for a big part of your college education in the form of the scholarships you received, your financial aid, and the endowed professors and programs in your majors and field of study. They also pay for the beautiful buildings that you will come to love. Why are so many people who don't even know you, rooting for you and giving you these financial and spiritual gifts? It's because we all believe in the power of a Rhodes education to build a better world. We believe that you will be able to do more here than get good grades and find a satisfying career. We believe you will learn to serve and lead with your heart as well as your mind. We believe you will put your education to use as leaders, healers, and change makers. In joining Rhodes, you are taking on personal responsibility for living up to our mission. Our mission, which says, Rhodes College aspires to graduate students with a lifelong passion for learning, a compassion for others, and the ability to translate academic study and personal concern into effective leadership and action in their communities and in the world. That's the mantle you take up today. That's what you are taking on. I am so pleased and proud to welcome you with open arms and a socially distanced virtual hug. Welcome to Rhodes College. I wish you every blessing in this new beginning. It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce you to our new provost, Dr. Kathy Bassard. Like you, Dr. Bassard is a newcomer to Rhodes. And like you, she brings with her impressive credentials and a passion for the learning and for the liberal arts. Educated at Wake Forest and Rutgers universities, Dr. Bassard has had a distinguished career as a scholar and professor and as a leader. Her research in English literature and Africana studies recovers the otherwise excluded voices of Black women writers. She is a model herself of the teacher-scholar ideal our faculty represent. She's deeply committed to students. I know you will enjoy being her very first class of students at Rhodes College.
Thank you so much, President Haas, and I bid a hearty welcome to the class of 2024. This is an unusual convocation in an unusual year. It's also a special year at a special place, Rhodes College, for a very special class, the class of 2024. You know, I was thinking that this year is really a year that's about filling in the gaps. Each of you completes us. We are excited about the stories, the experiences, the backgrounds that you bring to complete the Rhodes community. As you are going through this fall semester, I hope that you will find creative ways and new ways to be fully present to each other, to your classes, and to your community. And I know that you will do that. And while you're at it, think about what's missing. Whose voices are not in the room? Who is not on the Zoom call that should be? What questions have not been asked yet? What areas of inquiry and research and creative expression are yet to be discovered? We look forward to everything that you're going to bring to this community. And again, welcome to Rhodes College. I would now like to introduce Jacob Fontaine, president of the Rhodes Student Government, a senior from Flower Mound, Texas, pursuing a Bachelor of Arts with a bridge major in Economics and International Studies. Jacob serves as editor-in-chief of the Bridge newspaper for 2 years. The Bridge is a nonprofit street newspaper serving Memphians experiencing homelessness. He also founded the Diversity and Inclusion Standing Committee of the Student Senate to ensure a year-round focus on issues of diversity, inclusion, equity, and access. As student body president, Jacob plans to work with student leaders to continue to foster a community for all students, both on campus and remotely. Jacob is also a student trustee serving on the Rhodes Board of Trustees. And I say that I had a chance to serve on committees where Jacob was president. He's a tireless advocate for the student body, and uppermost on his mind was how to make sure that the class of 2024 felt welcome and part of the community. Jacob?
Thank you. First, I want to congratulate the class of 2024 on your amazing achievement. You have already made history as the high school senior class of 2020, and you will continue as a groundbreaking class at Rhodes. I also want to congratulate the family members that join us today. Without your support and sacrifices, this wouldn't be possible. Now, it would be naive of me to not acknowledge this unique start to college that you will all have the opportunity to embrace. In fact, I venture to say that this is the first Rhodes Convocation that at least half of the attendees are wearing their PJs at. You come to Rhodes during a transformative time for both our college and our country. The need for critical thinking and leadership has never been greater, and a Rhodes education will equip you with these tools and many more. But to take full advantage of what these 4 years have to offer, you must practice radical honesty. We all learn to tell the truth as children, but I also challenge you to seek truth and justice in yourself, among your peers, and in what you choose to fight for. Radical honesty starts with yourself. We all come to college with ideas about the world, but when we treat the ideas we have about people and experiences as unwavering facts of life, we miss out on the friendships, the lectures, and the experiences that have the potential to transform us into who we are meant to become. Embrace the learning process with all of its ups and downs, rather than focusing on the end goal. Strive for the A, but embrace the disappointment of taking a C over cheating. We all show up at the wrong time for a class, study the wrong content for a test, and my new personal favorite, send a Zoom message to the class publicly instead of privately. But what matters is the honesty that follows these mistakes. You will be awarded repeatedly when you choose to act truthfully, especially when you have the honor of walking the stage in 4 short years. While radical honesty starts with self-reflection, it also extends to your relationships with your peers. The complex problems that lie ahead of you require the perspective of those around you. Although it's expected that you listen to your professors, I challenge you to also give full attention to your classmates and look to them with mutual respect and the intent to learn. Your peers come from a world of different experiences, and the insights they share are invaluable. Part of the honor code is the trust we share as a community, and practicing radical honesty requires vulnerability with ourselves and our peers. Be open to dialogue and different ideas, and don't be afraid to be wrong. We must unlearn to grow. Finally, I challenge you to seek radical honesty in what you choose to fight for. In the words of Reverend Michael Curry, our community must make a long-term commitment to justice and truth-telling. Whatever you pursue, seek the good, the welfare, and the well-being of others as well as yourself. There's a great amount of work to be done in our country. Without the ongoing intervention on the part of you and every person of goodwill, we cannot move forward. In conclusion, as you start your journey towards becoming accomplished scientists, authors, and academics, choose the way of compassion and enjoy every moment. Your new community of support extends far beyond the gates, and I'm excited to see how you will lead the college in the coming years. Welcome to Rhodes.
Today, the faculty members of Rhodes who have gathered for this occasion begin our formal relationship with you, our students. We can't wait to get this year started. We want to join you in creating an amazing and interesting learning environment that challenges and nurtures you for the next 4 years and the rest of your lives. This morning, I have the pleasure of introducing an award-winning faculty member who exemplifies our commitment to you. As I present this award, you will be hearing some of what comprises the faculty's pledge to you as a student at Rhodes. We want you to flourish as a student and fellow community member. The award is named for Dr. Jameson Jones, a member of the Rhodes class of 1936. Dr. Jones joined the faculty at Rhodes in 1955 and served as the college's chief academic officer for more than 15 years. In his honor, the award is intended to honor a member of the faculty who has established an outstanding record of service to the college. I want to thank Dr. John Gladney of Shreveport, Louisiana, a member of the class of 74 and former trustee of the college, who generously endowed the Jameson M. Jones Award to show his support for the work of the faculty and to honor Dr. Jones. Today's recipient of the Jameson M. Jones Award for Outstanding Faculty Service is Dr. Gary Lindquester. Gary epitomizes selfless service to Rhodes College. Over his long career at Rhodes, Gary has devoted himself in countless ways to serving the institution for which he cares so deeply. He has been, in the words of one nominator, a model of collegiality and effective leadership, who goes beyond what is typically expected of faculty. His extraordinary record of service is wide-ranging, as he has served on nearly every standing faculty committee at the college: the Tenure and Promotion Committee, the Standards and Standing Committee, the Advising Committee, the Faculty Development Committee, the Faculty Governance Committee twice, and even, yes, the Committee on Committees. In fact, it would be hard to name a committee on which Gary has not served. This is not to mention the variety of search committees, advisory committees, steering committees, and task forces that he has either served on or led on important matters ranging from faculty evaluation to instructional technology. Gary's easygoing and humble demeanor make him a valuable contributor and collaborator on campus. Dr. Lindquester's service to the college and leadership among our faculty has been especially evident within the Natural Sciences Division. Trained as a molecular biologist who focuses in the areas of virology and immunology, Gary serves as the liaison to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, a high-profile position with one of the college's most important community partners. In this role, Gary supports research opportunities for our students and career development for St. Jude postdoctoral fellows. When he's not advancing our relationship with the local scientific community, Gary is devoting himself to the natural sciences on our campus. Over the years, he has chaired the biology department and led the interdisciplinary program in biochemistry and molecular biology. Less visible was his indefatigable work in the planning of Robertson Hall, our new science building. According to one group of nominators, Gary played an integral role in the planning and implementation stages of the new building. He was our eyes and ears on the ground, constantly checking and updating to ensure that the plans reflected the needs of faculty and students. Last year, he continued this role in the planning of the greenhouse construction. Most important, he did this work, as nominators summarized, thoughtfully and respectfully, balancing interactions between faculty and facilities management. The capstone of Dr. Lindquester's service career came in 2018 and 2019 when he served as interim associate provost in the Office of Academic Affairs. Gary stepped up to serve in this important role, even postponing a well-deserved sabbatical to do so. While in the office, he always carried out the day-to-day administrative duties of the position with grace, humility, and professionalism. Most remarkable, though, was the pivotal role that he played as representative of the Provost office on the ad hoc committee on salary and compensation. In this work, Gary was a consummate professional as he gathered data, posed important questions, and consulted with the committee. As another nominator put it, Gary demonstrated his many valuable leadership skills on this committee. Unfailingly honest, professional, efficient, and cooperative, he communicated clearly and brought new insights to our work. In short, for more than 30 years, Dr. Gary Linquester has devoted himself to the welfare of the college as a committee member and collaborator, department chair, and building planner, as an advocate for student research and faculty professional interest. He has been, as one nominator summarized, a model of selfless service, all for the good of the college. Please join me in congratulating the 2020 winner of the Jameson Jones Award for Outstanding Faculty Service, Dr. Gary Linquester. I am now delighted to introduce our speaker, Dr. Jeff Maddox. An associate professor in the Department of Psychology, Dr. Maddox studies the cognitive mechanisms of memory and attention and is the director of the Memory and Cognition Lab. He has established himself as a thoughtful teacher who brings his authentic self to the classroom and encourages students to do the same. As the winner of the 2020 Clarence Day Award for Excellence in Teaching, Dr. Maddox is a favorite among students because he puts students at the center of his pedagogies. He is committed to educating the whole student and approaches his work with students with compassion while also maintaining rigor and high expectations for all of his students. Please join me in welcoming Professor Jeff Maddox to the podium for his presentation titled, Knowing What You Don't Know, Moving Beyond the Boundaries of Your Own Knowledge. Following the convocation address shared by Dr. Maddox, we will close today's convocation program with the Rhodes Singers performing the Rhodes Alma Mater.
Class of 2024, to family, to friends, welcome to Rhodes. We are so excited to have you join our community, and hopefully we can gather together in the near future to celebrate the start of your journey here at Rhodes College. But for now, as we gather today for our virtual convocation, I'd like to spend a little time reflecting on some of the ways that we can identify the things that we don't know, right? And to kind of start us off, I'd like to offer two questions for your consideration, just as a means of setting the stage. So first, how do you know what you don't know? Just think about the ways that you do this. How do you know what you don't know? And importantly, the second question that goes hand in hand with that first question is, how do I know what I've not been exposed to, right? So we can identify, and we'll walk through an example, we can identify what we don't know if we've been exposed to something, right? That's relatively easy compared to a situation where we're trying to detect the absence of something, the absence of which we know nothing about, right? And so that's what we want to unpack today. But let's consider a scenario first, just for setting the stage, of how do we know what we don't know when we've already encountered that material? Because in most instances, we're going to attempt to identify what we don't know about information that we've encountered either in class or somewhere else in life. So with the school year starting, think about studying for an exam, right? As we study, I might ask myself, or you might ask yourself, have I studied enough? Have I identified the critical information? And in asking these questions, we're really trying to identify what we don't know, but because we've sat through lecture, or because we read the textbook, hopefully you've done both, right? Because we have been exposed to this information in advance, we have some foundation or a basis for identifying what we don't know. It's almost as if we have a sort of checklist. So I know that there are probably 10 major topics that are going to be covered on this exam. If I feel pretty good about 6 of them, guess what? That means that I don't know 4 of them. Right? And this happens all the time outside of the classroom as well. So a parallel scenario would be that at home, we've created a list of 10 items we need to pick up at the grocery store. We're walking the aisles, we pick up this item, we pick up that item, and eventually we look down in our grocery basket and we see we've got 6 items. We know that there were 10 items on that list. We've got 6 of them, and what are the 4 items that are remaining? Even if we can't think of what those 4 items are, we know that we don't know. Because we had that list, because we have 6 items, we know that we don't know what 4 of those items were, right? So in both of these instances where we've encountered the material in some capacity in advance, we have a way of checking our knowledge later. But what happens when that pre-exposure doesn't happen, or we don't have a foundation for making such an assessment? How will you know what you don't know? And for those of you who are sitting there watching this video, hanging on the edge of your seats, why should we care, right? Why should we care? Why should we care that we be able to identify the things we don't know, right? And so think about it. Identifying information we've not been exposed to, detecting the absence of context, the absence of experience, the absence of information is critically important. Because in most instances, in most things that we do and in most things that we encounter, right, the material that we receive is chosen for us. Someone else has crafted the syllabus. So we are determining the content you're going to get. The financial advisor decides in advance what information they want to share with you about the investment product. Same with the doctor and the treatment, right? So in turn, if we don't have this context, it's really hard to make sense of or to interpret or to evaluate the information that we are provided. So again, if we walk down this path and think about studying, let's take it from the perspective where I'm teaching a course, right? And this is hypothetical, but let's say that I'm teaching a course on learning and memory. I may ask you, what do you want to know? What do you want to learn about? What topics are of most interest to you? And then we can co-create the syllabus and co-create the course, right? But guess what? I'm still choosing, at the end of the day, the material that we're covering in that course. And consequently, what that means is I'm choosing the material that's not going to get covered. I'm choosing the readings. And I'm choosing the other folks in the area, the other researchers, the other scholars that we, as a classroom community, are going to regard as experts. And so what I'm doing in teaching a course on learning and memory is I'm actually sharing a narrative. What's the story of learning and memory? And I'm the author, right? I'm telling you the story that I want you to know about learning and memory. And so in doing so, I'm choosing the theories, the data, the researchers that are critical, and I'm also intentionally or unintentionally choosing the theories, the researchers, the authors, the material that can be overlooked and that can be set aside. And this happens outside of the academy as well. So think about a phenomena of going to the doctor, right? A doctor shapes the narratives of the treatment they're proposing for a patient. A financial advisor shapes the narrative as they sell investment products to clients. And the list goes on. And think about these situations, right? If you roll into our class on learning and memory and you don't know how vast that field is, how will you detect that I have wholly left off topics from our syllabus? How will you detect that I'm privileging certain authors over other authors? When you don't know what you don't know, it's dangerous, right? It's dangerous because how do you evaluate what we're actually doing in class? The same thing applies. So how are you going to ask the doctor about these treatments that you don't know much about? Right? How are you going to ask the financial advisor about investment products that you've never heard of? And so that's why I think it's important that we think about how we identify the things that we don't know when we've not been exposed to it in advance, when we have never encountered it in life before, right? So where do we start? How do we actually do this? And I'm going to just tell you up front, I know that I don't have the whole answer here. So I'm going to offer you 3 starting points. Hopefully they help us jump off and start thinking about what this all looks like in terms of identifying the things we don't know. But all 3 things are going to center on asking questions and exploring the world around you. So first, and I think this will be intuitive, ask questions, participate, and engage with eager curiosity. right? Again, I hope this is intuitive because you've all chosen liberal arts, right, as your inquiry of the next 4 years, right? You're going to be guided by the principles of liberal arts, right? And I think as a result of this, it's going to help you develop a robust tool chest, right? And I want to say up front, that's not to say that attending a big university like I attended would leave you without a robust skill set. Instead, it's to say that the purpose of higher education, especially in the context of liberal arts, should be to empower and liberate. And so across the next 4 years, you should develop and consistently refine a set of tools through an iterative process of inquiry and exploration that will support your lifelong intellectual odyssey, right? So with this in mind, I'm going to make an argument that you absolutely have the right to ask questions and expect answers, right? You should ask the whats and the wheres and the whos, wholly on board with all of it. But I'm going to push you to consistently, repeatedly come back to why. Why does it work in this particular way? Why does it function? Why is this cause and effect relationship present over here in scenario A, but not in scenario B? So always return to the why. Right? The second major question, this is true regardless, but is particularly important in 2020, where everyone takes to social media asserting that they have truth, that they know the answer. You need to ask often. Ask it frequently. How do we know that? What evidence do we have? Right? Whoever is pontificating and whoever is up here telling you that they know, whichever authority figure that may be, whether that is the president of Rhodes College or your Aunt Sally, how do we know this? What's the evidence? It's not that I don't believe you, I just want to understand better. So tell me, what's the evidence? How do we know that? And so at the same time as I'm encouraging you and telling you that you have the right to ask questions and expect answers, I'm also going to follow that up very quickly. You have the responsibility to seek out and effortfully pursue those answers. You have to take an active role in exploring and investigating and seeking to unearth and illuminate the truth. Because in many instances, at least in your courses, the faculty member will be able to give you an answer very quickly. Here's the answer, because we're all experts in our field. I work with brilliant folks, right? They'll be able to answer those questions. In some instances, and this is very frequent on my front, right? I might tell you, hey, look, here's what I know, but I'm actually going to go back to the primary source and I'm going to try to figure that out and give you more detail. So I'll catch you on Thursday and I'll have an answer for you then, right? Regardless of which scenario happens, you need to take responsibility to start exploring and answering your own questions, right? So while you have the right to ask questions and expect answers, you have the responsibility to do that work as well. The second piece, right? The second piece of advice I'd give you is that you should let your eager curiosity be guided by a commitment to humility. As you engage in the process of inquiry and exploration, do not do so from a position in which you assume that you're correct. Rather, I would urge you, pose your questions and pursue their answers because you might be wrong. And that sounds incredibly weird. It seems counterintuitive. We're supposed to march forward with confidence. And indeed, you should be confident in what you know. But always return to the lens that I could be wrong. Always seek to engage and explore material and concepts and theories and data and techniques and processes in a way that does not seek to confirm your pre-existing belief. You should explore in a way that actually seeks to invalidate those assumptions, right? Because on one hand, like it's a win-win, right? If we think about the big picture here, if we believe that we already have the answer, we will not be inclined to explore the worlds that we didn't know existed. So all of the things we don't know that we don't know will be left untouched. But if we assume that we don't have the answer and we engage wholeheartedly on this exploration, we're very likely to stumble into all of these different dimensions and worlds that we never knew existed. And that's brilliant. That's wonderful, right? Personally, on a what do I get out of taking a I might be wrong approach is a win-win product, regardless of the outcome. It's a win for you. Because even if you return after your exploration to the same assumption or the same belief, your argument will be stronger because you have a more nuanced and a more thorough understanding of that topic, that theory, the data set, etc. Right? So you're better off. You have a more nuanced and a stronger argument, even if you return to the same starting point. On the other hand, and I would say this is a bigger victory for you, right? You've deconstructed your starting point. You took your pre-existing belief, you examined it, you explored it, you went through all of these other areas that you didn't know initially existed. You've got a more complicated and a more accurate picture, a complicated and more accurate representation of reality. And your argument is stronger for it. And because you went through the deconstruction process, because you've had to rebuild your understanding of the world, you had a moment to grow, and what a wonderful opportunity that is. So again, I would argue that adopting this lens that maybe I'm wrong pushes us to explore the things we don't know that we don't know, and we're going to have a stronger argument for it and a more accurate, more articulate, more nuanced representation of reality. And so finally, third piece, we're almost there. Keep hanging in there with me, right? We're about 14 minutes, so keep going, right? The third and final piece, and then I'll wrap up, I promise, is that we need to seek out perspectives and stories of folks who are not like ourselves, right? We need to seek out the folks and the stories and the perspectives who, at best, are overlooked, and at worst are intentionally excluded and silenced, right? Our studies and academic pursuits, and admittedly, I'm biased, right? I'm biased because I'm a psychologist who minored in sociology. But our studies and our academic pursuits, I will argue, always have implications for human behavior, for human interaction, and for social structures. And this is regardless of academic discipline. Bring me your theories from chemistry. They have implications for human behavior and human interaction. Bring me the content that you grapple with. Bring me the theories from gender and sexuality studies, from Africana studies, right? From anthropology and sociology. They have implications for human behavior and human interaction. Bring me what you're working on in calculus. It's important for human study, human interaction, and human behavior. So with this in mind, a starting point for assessing what we don't know about a topic is to ask, always ask, who's telling this story? Who is the author of this narrative, right? I first started working with these questions when my high school history teacher regularly reminded us that history is written by the winners. And of course, the truth of this statement is that the dominant narratives that we typically encounter in history courses and textbooks are written by those with power. And the notion of the dominant narrative being told and shaped by people in power goes far beyond history. And that's what we need to unpack in the couple minutes, right, that follow. I promise I'm going to wrap up, right? To expand on the point of the narrator and power, Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, in her TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story, says, power is the ability not just to tell the story of another person, but to make it the definitive story of that person. The single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. Right? And so think about that. Go back to the earlier example where I'm teaching a course on learning and memory. If I am the narrator, if I'm telling the story, you have to ask, who is it that's telling the story? Whose voice am I hearing, right? And so we need to unpack What are my motivations as the author? Okay. If we go back to the first set of questions, right, really aimed at what do we not know? What have we not been exposed to? We can ask similar questions in this moment. So in addition to asking about who authored the narrative and whose voices were included, you should flip those questions and start asking yourself, who has been excluded? Whose story is being ignored? Right? And perhaps this is the most palpable in humanities and fine arts, where we grapple with protagonists and antagonists who are traversing some sort of plot line, and so we're really thinking about who's speaking and what their motivations are. Perhaps we take in or we reflect on a sculpture or a dance that's supposedly capturing an emotion or experience. Who's the one who has captured that? What is that person's motivation? Whose experience of that emotion is being excluded? And we see it in historical texts, right, that purport to tell an accurate account of what happened in a specific time period or throughout the course of a given event. So we have to ask ourselves, who's telling the story and whose perspective is being overlooked or silenced? Nonetheless, so even if it makes the most sense, even if these questions resonate in the humanities and the fine arts, they're equally relevant for social sciences and natural sciences, disciplines that are guided by the scientific method. And of course, the specific questions that we can ask will vary across disciplines. But broadly, you should be asking yourselves when you go into a natural science course or a social sciences course, who is asking the research question? Who authored the papers that we're reading? Who's shaping the research agenda? And what I'm really asking in that last question is, who is privileging research questions? Which questions are deemed important and which questions are kind of shrugged off and considered a lower priority? Because the author shapes the narrative and the narrative captures the field, we have to think about all of these things because all of these individuals are narrating and shaping what we do, what we privilege, what we're trying to understand, what we're trying to learn, and then consequently, what we share with the world, right? So we really do have to kind of sit with and grapple with who is authoring this and whose voice has been excluded. And once you start to grapple with those two questions, I will then push you to start thinking about the motivations. Why are the voices that are excluded excluded? How might their perspectives change the narrative that I've been sold today? And how do I create space for those other narratives that have been excluded? How do I replace Adichie's notion of a single story with a collection of narratives that captured the multitude of lived experience? Right? That's what we need to grapple with. That's what we need to take with us as we move forward. So we need to really think about bringing eager curiosity. We need to root ourselves with humility because we might be wrong. We often are wrong. Often the world is much more complicated and nuanced than we're aware of. And we need to seek out the voices that have been overlooked and excluded from the narratives that are brought to us, right? And then we need to work actively to craft narratives that avoid and deconstruct single stories. So thanks so much for hanging in there with me. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited that we're starting classes next week. I know that the faculty members cannot wait to get going. Even if we're remote, it's going to be an amazing semester. Welcome to Rhodes. Family, friends, students cannot wait to see you in person. But here we go. Let's get to work.